Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. I want to welcome you all to the show today. That was a tough loss. Really disheartening. You can look for there's plenty of things that you can say positively about the game. Like it was easily the best the Rebels have played all year. They were playing a nationally ranked team on the road in Dayton that had won 25 straight home games. I thought defensively probably put forth their best effort of the year. They were certainly solid on defense. I thought that DJ probably played maybe his best game of the year, probably his best game of the year. Julian Richlane was incredible. I thought he had a really solid second half that really, propelled the Rebels and gave them a chance in this game. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. And I tweeted this out, and I stand by it. It's a little harsh, but it's true. The Rebels had 5 opportunities to win quad 1, or at least quad 2. They basically had 5 opportunities in the non-conference to win a solid to get a solid win. They had the Memphis game, which it was a close game. The Rebels led late, and they ultimately came up short. Again, it's not a bad loss, but I'm getting into that. I'm getting into that right now. They had the Memphis game where they led late and ultimately came up short. They go on that 3-game win streak. Then they lose to Mississippi State in kind of a wire-to-wire game. They didn't really have a chance in that game. Mississippi State was playing really well. They lost a tight game to Northwestern, who was playing pretty well at the time. They lost to them in a close kind of back and forth game. They lost a blowout to Creighton, who is, Creighton's certainly not a very good team this year. Honestly, a bad Creighton team, if I'm being honest. Not a bad Creighton team, but just not like a good Creighton team. It's a team that was dealing with injuries. They lose pretty handily on the road. Then they lose this game, where they pulled out a 66-65 loss on the road in a game where they were up by 4 with over a minute to go, with just a little over a minute to go. Immediately give up a 3-pointer and a layup at the rim to go down. Then they hit a 3-point shot based off of the Rebels got lucky. They had a missed call. Jaden Henley committed an offensive foul because the Rebels just didn't seem prepared with the Rebels just didn't seem prepared to deal with a DJ Thomas double team. Brooklyn Hicks, I thought it was a pretty weak call. I don't think it was probably something that should have been called, but the Rebels had just been the beneficiaries of a missed call. So, you really can't complain too much. Brooklyn Hicks commits a foul, and they get a 3-point play at the rim. And ultimately, DJ had a wide open look, from about 10 feet away. It was a little awkward because he just, the player just flown past him, but he came up short and the Rebels lost. So looking at any of these losses individually, except for perhaps the Mississippi State game, and even honestly the Creighton game, but the other 3 games, you can look at every loss the Rebels have, the Runnin' Rebels have, and say, each of them is defensible. You can say, oh, well, I get why they lost that game. The problem is that they were, the problem with this game, especially, is that they had that 4-point lead. They had the lead, with 20 seconds to go. You really couldn't lose this game. And now you were 0 in all of your possible, quality games in the non-conference. Now, winning this game really wouldn't have changed very much for the Rebels. They're still going to have to win the Mountain West Conference tournament to have any prayer at the NCAA tournament. They're probably not an NIT team, even if they do pretty well in the Mountain West. At this point, the NIT is probably gone as well. You can't go 0 for 5 in these games. For example, if the Rebels wanted to make the NCAA tournament comfortably, they would have had to have gone in these games 3-2 or 4-1, probably 3-2. They're on the bubble. They're probably still even not in. But you can't go 0 for 5. You can't get 0%. And there's some things that you can build on in this game. Going into conference play. You hope that they can build on this performance, especially defensively. They turned it on the rebounding. The rebounding got a little bit better as the game went on. I thought that their defensive rebounding and their focus and attention to detail really went up. But it's just kind of death by 1,000 cuts with this team. The Rob Whaley injury, the Jace Whiting injury, the Jaden Henley injury. Bear Cherry seems like he just kind of has forgotten how to play basketball. He just doesn't seem like an asset at this point. And this was a game that you could have stolen and you didn't. But ultimately, if Kevin Kruger is done at the end of this year, and we talked about this on the Burner Brigade, if Kevin Kruger, if this really is his last year, which, as of right now, it looks like it is his last year, it won't be because this team didn't, go on a great run and didn't make the NCAA tournament. This team is snake bit with injuries. The roster just isn't quite good enough. I think if you put Luis Rodriguez and Keelan Boone and Caleb Boone on this team instead of Jaden Henley, Jalen Hill, and Bear Cherry, I think it's probably a tournament team. It's not because this year's team isn't that good. It's because they didn't make the tournament last year. Last year was the year to make the tournament. That was a loaded team, a good team, a team that had all the potential in the world. And if Kevin Kruger is done, it's not because of this Dayton game. It's not because of the Northwestern game. It's not because of any game this year. It's because of his resume as a whole. A couple of points to take away individually about this game. I cannot in my life. I can't do it. If I see it again in a Rebel game, I might have to walk out of the building or turn the game off because I can't do it. I cannot see another Jalen Hill isolation / post up. It's the worst shot in college basketball. It still seems to be featured as a prominent part of the offense. And I don't want to dog on Jalen Hill completely because, Jalen Hill certainly has been the Rebels' best defender. And that can't be discounted. That can't be overstated. That's really important. But Jalen Hill right now on the year as a player on offense, let's just pull up his stats. He is shooting 3 for 15 from 3 on the year. So that's at a 20% clip. He is at a 32% clip from 2, which, that's just shooting under 35% from 2. Not that's taking away his 3-point attempts. If you add his 3-point attempts and his 2-point attempts, he's under 30% on offense as a player on the year. That's just that can't be. He's got a 43% true shooting percentage, a 31% effective field goal percentage. He's got a 15% turnover rate and a 13% assist rate. He can't shoot anymore. He can't be a part of the offense right now. He just can't. He's not good enough, on offense. And again, I like Jalen Hill as a player. I think it's necessary. He's a necessary part of the rotation. But he can't be a part of the offense, not anymore. And I just, every time I watch that, I can't watch it anymore. It's awful. And every time he shoots, the other team is just getting a free possession. He can't finish at the rim. He can't really shoot threes at the moment. And it's just killing the Rebels. And so if I was Kevin Kruger, I would say to Jalen, look, if you have a wide open 3, which Jalen doesn't get very many of those, but if you have a wide open 3 or a cut to the basket with a wide open layup or, those kind of shots are fine. But every single other part of his game has to be eliminated right now because it's just not effective. And it's killing our offense. I would rather see 10 Julian Rishwain crazy contested threes than 10 Jalen Hill shots at the rim. It's just not a good shot for the offense. It's wasting possessions. And again, I don't, and Kruger has done this to his credit. Bear Cherry, he can't play right now. If he's not healthy, he's not healthy. You can't keep giving him shots at the rim. He can't post people up. He can't deal with the double team. And it's just causing massive issues for the Rebels. Does that mean it's going to be like that all year for Bear Cherry? No, I think eventually Cherry could probably turn it on and maybe, turn into a solid offensive player again, like he was at the beginning of the year. But Bear Cherry can't deal with a double team. He can't finish at the rim. And, Kruger is cutting back on his minutes, but maybe you have to cut back more. At least Jacob Barnaby, again, Kruger doesn't really have a lot of options. You can't really take Bear out, but the team's only real path to victory is Julian Rishwain threes. Brooklyn Hicks maybe getting on. I would probably speed up as an offense and let Brooklyn Hicks maybe get some acceleration, get some downhill penetration towards the rim. I will say that Jaden Henley had kind of a rough start to the game, but I thought that he really turned it on in the second half. And I thought Jaden Henley had a pretty good game. And so credit to him, coming off an injury. I don't know what's going on with Jalen Bedford. I don't know, watching Jalen Bedford play versus Jalen Hill, they're just the wing and guard position. The roster just isn't really working. Now it's still, it's not a moribund roster. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but the roster just isn't clicking right now. And Kruger, winning this game would have been great, but it would not have changed anything for the team this year. I mean, it would have given them positive momentum into conference play. I don't mean it wouldn't have changed, anything for the team itself. The players certainly would have been more confident heading into conference play, but Kruger is going to have to be really good in conference play, and he's going to have to either win the Mountain West Conference, which this team hasn't shown any indication that they can do that. But I'm telling you what it's going to take for Kevin Kruger to turn this thing around. He's either going to have to win the regular season conference title, or he's going to have to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. And I mean, I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't think a betting man would predict that it's going to happen. And I'm a little bummed because, I felt really confident about the Rebels going into this Dayton game. I thought this was a game that they were going to be able to pull out. And again, you saw some things this game that, at least on the defensive side and on the rebounding side that were positive, but ultimately it just doesn't mean anything until the Rebels. Here's the thing about UNLV basketball. And this goes that you can use this on a micro level and on a macro level. Nothing means anything until they make it to the NCAA tournament. That's just the way it's going to be. You don't have to be a consistently top ranked 25 team. You don't have to make it every single year, but nothing is going to be important for the fans to come back to the Thomas and Mack until they make the tournament. And so, Kevin Kruger's got his work cut out for him. If he is the guy, he's got to do it now. Because I don't see this team's not going to make the NIT with how they're playing right now. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament with how they're playing right now. And yeah, I mean, at least we'll have clarity at the end of the year. Either way. And I'm going to keep enjoying the team no matter what. I'm going to keep covering the team. You're going to keep seeing live streams after the games. I'm not going to quit on the team. But this was really discouraging and really sad. And the fact that it was close, and they played their best game of the year. As much as I'd love to say that means something and that we can take positives away from this, when you go 0 for 5 in conference play and non-conference play against good teams, there's nothing. The team itself should try and take positives away from this game and move on and feel confident heading into conference play, no doubt. But as fans, what do you want from us, man? Win a game. Win one of your big games. If we were 1 for 4 in these big games, I would have been disappointed. Even if the Rebels had won this Dayton game, I would have found the non-conference performance disappointing. So, This game doesn't fundamentally change anything, but it does mean that there's probably going to be some pretty empty nights at the Thomas and Mack, and that's sad because the Thomas and Mack is an incredible building, and it makes me sad that it's not fuller than it is. Let's briefly talk about the bowl game before I get you out of here. So I don't know if the Rebels have moved to being favored against Cal. I don't think they are. I want to check. There's also a lot of football news in general. So I guess I'll just kind of go down. I guess I'll kind of just go down the list and tell you about kind of what's going on here. So Brennan Marion, it basically got Brennan Marion basically came out that he's not going to be coaching tomorrow in the bowl game. That's not a surprise to anybody. Marion was with Barry gone, and even if Barry had stayed, Marion was definitely going to be gone after this year with the Sluka situation. And I think, I just think it was probably Marion's time, which is sad because Marion's a great coach. But Marion gets picked up by Sacramento State. If you have been following the Pac-12 Mountain West saga, Sacramento State has been a name that has been coming up a lot. They've committed a ton to athletics. It's pretty obvious that they want to make that jump to the FBS. They'd be a candidate that I would be okay with being in the Mountain West, to be honest with you. In fact, I would rather have Sacramento State than like UC Davis, to be honest with you. I think Sacramento State's a better program than that. And so Brennan Marion gets the head coaching job at Sacramento State. I think that's the perfect place for him. I think it's a good. That school will have buy-in. They'll be able to recruit well for their level, and they'll probably do pretty well under Brennan Marion. And so, goodbye to Brennan Marion. He is going, gone, gone. And we wish him the best. As for the Rebels, first they hired. Let me see if I can find the name. I can't remember his name, but it's like John Clark or something. And they hired basically a GM for the program. So this is something that a lot of college programs are doing now. It's actually something that's been around for a long time, but they're kind of rebranding it and kind of repurposing it into something a little bit more specific. And so UNLV is going to hire one of Dan Mullen's longtime guys as their GM. The next thing that they do is they're hiring a defensive coordinator, I believe. A pretty big name, honestly. It looks like Barry Odom and who is it? What's his name? Ryan something? Ryan Davis? Ryan Davis, I think. I believe it's Ryan Davis. So UNLV is hiring Ryan Davis. I believe he was with John Mullen at Florida, at Mississippi State. He had previously been pegged as the defensive coordinator at Appalachian State, but UNLV seems like they're outbidding Appalachian State, and they will be adding a pretty experienced and certainly I think everybody is on board with this hire. Zach Arnett, sorry, Arnett. There we go. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you, Brandon. It was Arnett. So they're hiring Arnett as our defensive coordinator. I apologize for that. My brain was just a little scrambled. But that's a solid pickup, obviously. Looking forward to him. Guy with a ton of experience. He was, after Mike Leach, the head coach at Mississippi State, passed away. He stepped in as the interim coach. They didn't end up. App State didn't have a chance. After Mike Leach tragically passed away last year, I believe he jumped in as the interim coach. So he's got a little bit of head coaching experience. He's a longtime Dan Mullen associate. Really good hire in my view. Excited to see kind of what defensive philosophy he brings. He's an SEC guy through and through, and the SEC to Las Vegas pipeline is it's flowing. So good stuff. As for the bowl game tomorrow, let me just check the odds real quick. So it looks like Cal is still the 1-point favorite, I believe. So I'm seeing Cal 1.5 right now, but I know that the line has been moving like crazy, so it could have changed. And this is Kyle 1.5. Thanks, brother. Um, so this is a big and see, this is what I think. I don't think that Cal should be favored at all in this game. I'm thinking I'm going to go live prior to this game and live after this game, just because I think it'll be a fun experience. This is a pretty good bowl game, based on what the Rebels have played in the past, and so they're getting some pretty good swag. They're getting, they went to Universal Studios. It's obviously it would have been great to win the Mountain West Conference, and go to go to a college football playoff. But yeah, I think the Rebels should be favored. It's going to be interesting to see, without Brennan Marion there, who's going to be calling the offense. We don't really know yet. Del Alexander is the coach for the bowl game. I would love to see Dan Mullen just jump on there in the sideline as the interim coach. I mean, as the interim offensive coordinator. I know that's not going to happen, but I'm sure that Brennan Marion had an assistant or something who's saying to call, and I'm sure it'll be called very similarly. This team is a team full of a lot of seniors. It seems like pretty much all of them are playing. We didn't really have any bowl opt-outs, which is a big blessing. It's a big positive. So I'm predicting a very good UNLV game tomorrow. I will go live before the game. I appreciate you all. I'm going to end it there. Have a great night. Recover from the loss as best as you can, and let's run.